If you're an outsider of society, no matter what happened, or no matter what you do, no matter what you say, you're always going to be on the outside. No matter what. You can be the most kindest, loving, accepting person and still be on the outside. This is about how it actually is to be an outsider of society. No one wants you. You're never accepted anywhere. You're never going to get any help. But here's the thing that people don't get. It's actually better to be an outsider in countries where they have the lowest barrier of surveillance. No cops, no taxation. Why else do you think that Andrew Tate went to Romania and did what he did there? Because he needed to have his freedom to actually do what he wanted to do without any local authorities whatsoever. He needed to for his freedom. I don't condone any of his actions or allegations, but I'm just saying what a lot of people who are outside of society in like a 1% percentage actually go through. Y'all only see like the glorious parts about them finding a way to get money, but y'all don't realize that the homeless person and the 1% billionaire walk the same line, is that they are both outsiders. That's why I never equated people any differently whatsoever, because I was just always, a very down-to-earth person of like, well, who cares? Like, we're all human beings and we're all going to die, so why be bothered by anything? But they kept fucking me up. And then they tried to make it seem as if I was the bad guy. A lot of us, we don't even need to worry about corrupt governments because we have been dealing with corruption in our own families. And this is something that I say. Your first introduction into a corrupt authoritarian group is your own family. It's your own family. It's your own mother, who's always going to blame you for everything that she has ever done into her life and is going to favor your drug-abusing sister. It's your own father who's going to cast you outside for being gay and then wants to go out and fuck up other people, their children, to make it look as if he's actually a good person. It really is your own family who is introducing you to satanic Kabbalist rituals and social dynamics. Truly, it is. Billions have been spent to try to make me act, think, feel, behave a certain way, and I never in my life was able to meet that demand. Never. I always did my own thing, but I was always on the outside. So for them to now say, we're going to put you in the lowest position of the militia due to a forced application of military services, is just bullshit. A forced military operation to participate in military services just because they don't have enough men to fight the bullshit of other people who want to make war in Europe is interesting. Because in order to do that, you first have to accept the fact that I am a part of your people cult. I'm not a part of your people cult because it's a membership. It's a membership. And I never paid for that shit. But the moment you open these letters, the moment you open these debt papers, the moment you do all these things, they think or assume that you're a part of these people, their club. Because of the membership. And I never was. They never wanted anywhere. And what I found the most stupid about this entire society is that everyone knows that they're being used as the lowest ranking part of the militia, as mind-controlled beings and sheep, and yet they're still attacking each other. When all that stuff came out, I really thought to myself, well, maybe now they're going to actually do something and stand up. Nope. They said, we're going to defend this system to the end of the bone. And if you do not comply, if you do not get the jab and the vaccine and all these things, we're going to kick you out and cash you out. Playtime was over, and all of a sudden, it's kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Stand together, all that bullshit. And then they wanted to party and celebrate. And that this is, I'm genuinely convinced that if you do not fit in, if you do not participate in any of these social bullshit, that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing because that means that you haven't been able to be brainwashed. Billions have been spent to create fake viruses, fake pandemics, fake epidemics, and with fake, I mean, humanly made, artificial, human made, so not from a bat, but from a human lab themselves, made to literally kill almost a billions of people. All that has been done. All that has been done. And they're still doing it. And people are still convinced that any of these things are, created by nature itself, but mankind has been something different than nature for a very, very long time. We do not belong to nature anymore. I don't know what the fuck we have become, but we do not belong. We do not belong. And I've never complied. I didn't fight back either. I just did not comply, but that's actually worse because they want you to demonstrate and they want you to participate in all these violent acts and anarchic acts so they can just act upon and give reasons why they had to put marital law and all these things. But if you simply just do not comply, you do not comply. You say, I know what's going on. I know what you're doing, and I'm not participating. I'm not resisting either. I'm just ignoring you because in my dimension, in my world, on my frequency, that does not exist. That does not exist. It does not exist in my timeline. So whatever type of energy you're bringing, it's dismissed. Bye. Moving on. They did everything they can to try to fuck me up. They did. They literally have fucked up. They fucked me up at birth with all the surgeries and drugs that they've given me when I was 5 minutes old. Medical malpractices and whatnot. Since I was 5 minutes old, all these surgeries, which I still have scars from, I was used as a biomedical project for the bio patch. Can we cut someone's organs out, attach a patch to it, and put it back in? Will it sit? Sounds so silly. But truly, they did it. And it worked. Then the second experiment was, after that happened, is the participant still able to participate in regular society as a child? Everything everything, and everyone already expected to, me to fail, because I was not supposed to be alive. I was supposed to be dead. And they're very furious about that I'm not dead, and that every single day I'm drawing breath, and I'm letting this system know that your project has failed. Your project has failed. It has succeeded on one hand and failed on the other. Despite all the attempts to try to drug me when I was only 10 minutes old, it did not work. I'm still thinking clearly and whatnot, and able to articulate everything perfectly, that people can at least understand somewhat of this deep, deep rabbit hole I've been exposing for years. I've been cast aside and I've been silenced because all they had to do was try to convince me that there was something outside of myself that I assumably wanted to be a part of, which was being a part of my peers. But it was already determined that the moment I was born, he will never be a part of anyone, because he's not a person. He's a biomedical experiment, and then I became a social experiment. And now I'm trying to be a person. Always. That's why I do not trust any of these people. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust anyone. Because anyone works for the militia. Everyone works for the militia. And they have direct connections to the entire institutions that can search inside of their system and see what has happened and know that, wait a minute, we're dealing with a threat, because he was supposed to be a biomedical experiment and not supposed to come out like that. We know what he's been doing. We know that he's been speaking the truth, but his existence is just a threat. It's a threat because you're not supposed to be alive. You're supposed to be dead. We're trying to kill you. We're trying to unalive you, but you keep on breathing and breathing and breathing. And that's not supposed to happen. And you also keep on creating. So we cannot just put you aside saying that you are a crazy lunatic, because you are a sentient being and your work really has potential in it. It has a lot of technicality in it. So that means that we do hint at, some sort of intelligence being displayed in order to perform such high level of craftsmanship in technology, music, art, dance, literature, science. It has to. It has to be. But we're still going to block you. We're going to block you. We're going to ostracize you. Everything. Now, I've always said that you have 3 circles of life, and in the first circle, you have what we know as mainstream. It's the mainstream circle. Everyone knows this circle because everyone is equipped with that. Mainstream media, mainstream music, mainstream culture, mainstream social structures, mainstream phenotypes, Aryanism. And then you have the subcultures. And people who are participant in subcultures, they often say that they are outsiders. They often say that they are outsiders of society and that they do not belong anywhere. But the moment you can identify as even a subculture, then it's not that you are an outsider. You're just non-mainstream. But you're still attached to what is mainstream because you're still getting any sort of subsidies or, fundings by mainstream corporations. But you're just on the outer reaches of the bell, of the curve bell. And then you have the real outsiders, whom the alternatives try to mimic and copy, and who the mainstream has put upon an icon because of their rebelliousness. But these individuals are hardly seen as people. They're seen as objects, they're seen as subjects, they're seen as projects to morph into, and they often live terrible, terrible, terrible lives. And then they find some sort of, or create some sort of success, and instead of being respected as a regular person, a citizen, civilian, part of the militia, they're being treated as an object, a cultural puppet, that is, a concept, not a person, not an individual with his own personal thoughts, feelings, actions, belief systems, religion, or culture that may not be mainstream in the country that you reside. Just all of that. And it's just of no use. That's what happens to most outsiders. Most outsiders will eventually be, seen as icons and whatnot, because they provide at least some sort of entertainment for the mainstream, who is working 9 to 5 every single day just to stay alive, but they need to wear their head down and look at something to just drift away. They're trying to control you. They're trying to control your mind. They're trying to control your DNA, your body, your entire psyche and identity. And people know this, but they're just still complying. And what's even worse, they start to work for this agenda and start to attack anyone else who refuses to comply. That's what's even worse. And you're just there like, but what did I do? What did I do that makes you act and behave like this? What have I done? And the fact is just simply, you exist. And any type of resistance, the cops are being called, the militia are being called, and before you know it, they're just banging onto your door just as the same shit their ICE is doing. Slave, where's your registration number? Where's your passport? You do not even have to give it to them, because they're trespassing your property without any sort of license whatsoever. Nothing at all. But they're still going to participate in these satanic acts of trying to gather as much souls as possible. And I'm genuinely convinced that the education system is just one harvesting machine, where they're going to filter out many gifted, spiritually awakened individuals, children who could have been or can be or are star seeds, indigos, whatever you want to call them, from, incarnated from different star systems or levels of consciousness throughout multiple dimensions, we don't know. Accidentally took a left turn and ended up here in prison. Confined by gravity, stuck in a body that does not reflect their being, what's on the inside. They're trapped. They're trapped in this persona that they have to be a human being, they have to be a person and an individual, even though all they are being treated as is like a human project or a human experiment. We do not know what to do with you. As if you're some sort of project that they have to, control any type of way. You just need to control any type of way. Anyone who sees through this system knows what I'm talking about, but they're trying to make it seem as if anyone who is awakened or is just aware is crazy. People have equated me to Prince, that kind of shit, due to my, multi-instrumentalism, starting my own record label at age 19 and producing, composing, and engineering everything myself. But they mainly just see me as an outsider and an outcast, and the system does not want me. And they refuse to give me any of my money. And they do not want me to participate in regular jobs, but they do not also want me to participate in any entrepreneurial commerces. They do not want that. That's why most of my income actually comes from everything out of the Netherlands. You know, people buying my beats, soundtracks, soundscapes, subliminals, digital therapies, neurotechnologies, subscriptions for the Disciples of Aquarius, all that kind of stuff. Everything. It's insane, but this is just the truth about what it's like to be an absolute outsider. My family also perceives me as an outsider. The fact that my fully biological sister tells me you should do a DNA test and look what you can find. Bitch, we came out of the same pussy and we have the same father. So whatever is inside of my blood will be in your blood. So why the fuck? That's what I mean. And that's the truth about being an absolute outsider of society. That if you are out, you are way out. Not just dibbling and dabbling with subcultures and the alternatives that are being, financially funded. I mean, really out. But you're still inside of a country that does not allow you to participate. No one can help you because everyone who is in the position of helping you works for the militia. Works for the militia to try to control you, enslave other souls, enslave other, expressions of consciousness that refuse to be boxed inside of any label or system. That's what they do. I always say everyone who tries to help you tries to help you to hell. Whenever people say I'm here to help you, the to hell is silent. Because that's what everyone does. They're only trying to help you to hell. They're not here to try to help you as an individual to your greatest potential. They don't. You have to do everything yourself, but they're not allowing you to do anything yourself. So then you want to leave the country, but they're not going to allow you to leave the country due to a forced military operation, which you have to be a part of since you are a citizen of this country. And they're not going to allow you to actually participate in the militia because you are not equipped for that. You do not pass any of these tests, but they still want to have some sort of control over you. They're not going to read you as disabled, which would be actually easier for everyone, but they're going to cash you on the outside. That's what they do. They're going to cash you on the outside, and they're trying to control you any type of way they actually can. Whenever something happens and you react, best assured, the first thing they're going to do is just paint you out to be the villain. Weapons, pew-pews are often drawn, and no matter what you say, it will always be against you. If you say, if you follow their Jewish bullshit and say, Shalom, I come in peace, they will just misinterpret that as like, oh, well, you're making fun of the Jews and that kind of stuff. That's anti-Semitism, pew-pew, and then you're done. They're going to do all these things because you're an outsider, you're a threat. If you do not participate in the education system, that you refuse to be indoctrinated with false information, you're out. If you refuse to be indoctrinated and to be a slave of corporation and corporate control, you're out. If you refuse to be part of the militia, you're out. But they're not going to let you leave the country because you're a native, but you're a native, an outsider who also happens to be a native. So they have to, accept you some sort of way. So the lowest barrier they do want to interact with you is for business commerce under the name for taxes. That's what they want. Like every time I try to network with people, it just doesn't work. They say network, I would just say net shit. That's why I just stopped caring and started posting everything that I want. Posting all these rants and whatnot and just my thoughts and opinions, because no matter what, no matter how you twist, shape, bend yourself, you are an outsider because you were a biomedical experiment which you did not give consent for because you were not even of the age of consent. You were 5 minutes old. You were not even an hour. I could have not even said anything, and no one could have even said that he is just a few days old. No, I was 5 minutes. I was 5 minutes. And I was just cast aside. Every single day I just walk by people and I'm like, y'all really don't know that we're part of the lowest ranking members of the militia. And whatever you say, they're going to look at you as if you're the one who's being crazy. Meanwhile, it's really about their own lives. It's insane. But this is just the truth about being an outsider. Because the ultimate truth is that you're being watched, but not fully seen. You're heard, but you're not listened to. People think about you, but they don't know you. People do not understand you, but they feel your presence. And that's the truth. Because if you're an outsider, you need to find anything you can to just live your own life. Because they're trying to, or they're not even trying to, they're literally playing in cat and mouse games, trying to get you for shit, trying to make you slip and fall into this bullshit and whatnot, doing all that shit so you won't leave, you won't budge, anything. They're constantly trying to control you through any types of tactics they can. Fear, guilt, shame. I've been telling about this for a while now. You know, any type of mind controlling tactic will be rooted in fear, guilt, and shame. Well, you know, you better do this or else. That's fear. You know, why are you participating in this? Do you really want this? That's shame. You know, because why have you done this? Why do you do that? That's guilt. And out of the, like, most attacks are literally just psychological. They're literally just psychological, even if they may conduct in physical, you know, demeanors. Most of it is just an act. 90% will always be played in, which I would just call the psychological realm. Because it's a psychological warfare. They may get aggressive, or what they will often do is, you know, make the first hit and then make you go off physically. And then try to say shit that you are participating in a misdemeanor. Even all you did was participating in self-defense after an authority figure misused his power against you. Look what is happening to people in the United States of America with ICE. Where's your legal registration paper? You don't need to show it to them because they're not participating in any commercial activities. You're not even supposed to be on their doorstep. You're not even supposed to be there. Why are you there? You do not have to give it to them. All these letters and all that shit. You need to do this. You need to participate in this. No, you don't need to participate in any of this shit. But if you're an outsider of society, it's easier for them to come at you because you're not even protected by a community itself. Because people who are on like the upper end of the social economic class, they don't deal with this shit. They don't deal with that because they're always socially protected. If you're an outsider of society, you're technically a living, breathing ghost. That's what it's like. You're a living, breathing ghost, and people may experience you, but they cannot touch you in that sense. You're unrelatable, and they're trying to morph you and steer you into the right direction. They're narcissistic enough to actually believe that they're doing the right thing. It's just one giant mess. I'll make more videos about this.